Second time in a row, the phone ran out of memory again. This thing can't even hold an hour of videos, so maybe I should be pausing it more. Okay, I don't know how much it caught of what I was talking about before. I was thinking about going with this thing, this setup. Then I was thinking about this is coil split, so you can actually get a bunch of different voices out of it. You do like this humbucker, you do this coil, you do that coil. They might be different, they might not. You can do all three. There's humbucker, all three plus the split coil, or all three plus either split coil if they're different. You can do like these two or these two with or without split coil. You can do just these two. So yeah, lots of voicings there. And I was thinking about controls. On-off switches for stuff might be easier than a selector because you're already way beyond like 5 voices. And I was thinking maybe a 3-way for this, for making it off or humbucker or coil split. Then I'd gotten down to tone controls. I was about to start thinking about tone controls, whether I should have any or not. And then it occurred to me, where can I put controls? Because this is a nice soundboard, and I don't want to. I mean, you can. It's going to have a leg bar of some sort. It might just need a short leg bar that serves as like to create a horn and cutout kind of thing, and just goes on the right leg. That might work, but then you can hit the bridge, so maybe add a piece of wood to protect the bridge and then do that, or have the leg horn go like that so that it protects the bridge. That might be slick. But yeah, or the other way is have a real 2-leg leg horn that comes up like this. And you could mount controls on a plate on that. If you had a leg horn that was coming out like this, you could mount controls on a plate up here. You could mount a plate to the front or the back of the body someplace and have controls hanging off the side. You could drill holes and like route from behind or whatever and mount them through the body. You could actually route out a cavity and put in a cover plate and mount them into the cover plate and then put a second cover plate on the back to cover, because you routed entirely through the body, basically cutting holes and big holes in it all the way through. But like I said, I think my intuition tells me that it's a good idea to leave this soundboard alone. Treat it like an acoustic and leave the soundboard alone. So routing or rear-mounted controls are out, and you're down to mounting it off the edge of the body or mounting it on the horn kind of thing. Probably the horn being the best option. For the long leg bar, down there seems to be a good place for stuff. It's reachable, but it's not in the way when you're sitting down or anything like that, or when you're standing up. So then, alright, so controls will go either hanging off the body or hanging off the horn or leg bar or whatever. Then what about tone controls? For a while there, I was thinking you put a built-in EQ into the guitars, and that'd make them even slicker. You know, even if it wasn't preamped really. But you see, it'd have a 9-volt, and it kind of works like a preamp too, which is nice. But in the end, I got 40 guitars here now, out of which I've built, well, I've got almost a dozen custom builds, and you know, if I'm spending like 20 or 30 bucks on an EQ pedal for each of the dozen custom builds, it starts getting a little expensive. And it's silly to have, you know, 10 EQ pedals hanging on the ends of guitars on the wall, when all you really need is one at the beginning of the pedal chain, or two. So I decided that it was that unless you only had like one guitar that was EQ equipped, and otherwise you didn't have an equalizer, that if you had two guitars that were EQ equipped, there wasn't a point. It was more practical to just have a single EQ on your pedal chain and do it that way. You know, say like I was a guitar factory and I made the curved tri and the curved tri tail tuner. One had a headstock, one didn't, and I made a version with an EQ built in and a version without. And obviously the EQ one costs a little more. And my customer, Mr. Joe Player, or Josephine Player, decides that he or she wants a, you know, they like the curved tri and stuff, and so they're like, cool, I want a curved tri and I want a headless curved tri, and then I want EQs for both of them. And I just have an amp, or whatever. You know, an amp and a distortion pedal or something. And you know, that's one way you could go, but it would be less expensive to just buy an EQ pedal and buy the two versions of the guitar that didn't come with EQ pedals. And you would save the cost of an EQ pedal, essentially. So yeah, the practicality, while it's a neat gimmick, shall we say, and definitely beats the heck out of a lossy, bleedy, treble bleed circuit for tone controls on a guitar, the EQ pedal itself is really kind of overkill, and really guitarists worth their salt. You know, if they want serious tone control, they're going to have an EQ or be using presets or something at least. So, or you know, everybody fiddles around with bass and treble if they've got it, and tone in general. So putting an EQ on the guitar itself, I'm not so sure about. It would be slick, but it's probably overkill. Treble bleed circuits, your traditional tone controls, you've got, well, they're lossy. You can implement it with an on-off pot, and then it's not a lossy circuit. You can implement it with an on-off switch for the treble. I mean for the tone control, and then it's not lossy. That could actually be kind of neat. Have a tone control with an on-off of some sort, and then you can apply it to all of your circuits. And then if you want tone control, it's there, and if you don't, you get straight through. So that might be an idea. I don't know. A lot of these kind of builds, I just take the whatever and send it straight to the jack, and leave the volume. That's the amp's job, and tone is the job of that's what these guys are for. These are your tone. There's your distortion. That's your, what is that? There's your delay. And there's my looper that I can't seem to get working. At least I found it again. And then there's your volume. Or there's your volume. That's a pedal amp. This is a 45. If I see the need to make serious demos, I can always kick this thing in. So, but yeah, so if you want real tone control, just get an EQ pedal. So that's the reason why I tend to not worry about it. I don't know. I don't know. Different coil voicing. I don't see a whole lot of point in doing that without the bass, or this without the treble. Well, there might be a point. I mean, if you just wire it up as like a three-way, let's say you had a three-way and position 1 did all 3, okay, and then position 2 turned this off and gave you like a bright sound, and then position 3 turned this one off and gave you like an extra bass sound, more or less. So that might be interesting. I guess the thing to do is I've more or less decided on the pickups and the configuration, it looks like. I guess the thing to do is to check out the coil tap on this and see if it's of any interest, and then to decide on which voicings might be useful. So I guess I need to test the coil taps, coil split, sorry. Test the coil split on this thing and try these two together again and try these two together again, maybe with coil split depending on what I find out, and determine what's hot and what's not, basically. And then the hot stuff will go on the to-do list, and what's not won't go on the to-do list. I think it's pretty obvious that we're going to want this thing as a single humbucker alone as one of the possible voice choices for this guitar. Or maybe not. Maybe it should just be a one-voice guitar. Maybe it should just be all 3. I don't know. Maybe I need to think about it some. No, but I'd like to, you know, I got multiple pickups and I got coil split and everything. If it's worthy, I should take advantage of it. Alright, there you go. If it's worthy, I'll take advantage of it. Decision made. I'll be back. Okay, getting coil split going here. This is how they're wired. Originally, green was our hot and black was our minus when it was a humbucker. And you can actually look at the side of the thing. Right there, and you can see that the black bobbin, or actually you can see much clearer, the red and the green wire are going to the cream colored bobbin, and the black and the white wire are going to the black colored bobbin. So, and originally on it, black was our ground and green was our hot, so that means this is plus and that's minus, that's minus and that's plus. By process of elimination. So this is how the thing's wired up. And let's see what we get here. And I put the screws on. Where's the camera? Yeah, I lowered the screws down so it will clear the strings. They're still sticking up. They're up a mil or 2, and the other screws are down a mil or 2, so it's best we can manage at the bridge here. I can always turn around and pump them up a little bit more. Alright, what do we got? So let's see, let's try the cream colored one. This is going to be green is plus. little on the warm side. I think that one sounds better. So the first question is the second not as bright and full voice because it doesn't have screws? Is that a worthy voice for this guitar? And I'd say no, there's no point in worrying about splitting off and getting this second coil. This coil should do. So we like the red and green one. It's got a nice bright open sound, but full and rich still too. Wonder if bringing up some other screws might help even more. Might want to give that a try. I'll be back. Okay, got it back in humbucker mode. And got all three in parallel again. And now the question is whether this without that is a worthy voice and whether this without that is a worthy voice. Because this is going to be one of the voices. All three. Okay, now this is going to be we'll do the bass only. Might be interesting. Extra bottom. The treble only. Something like this. Catch a lot with this thing. Well, maybe you do. Okay, so maybe that's worthy. Bright. So there'd be so you got a humbucker voice. You got a bright voice, a little bit more ring to it. You got a bass voice, wire. Bass to it. I don't know if it's significant. I mean, here, wait a second. Okay. This is why I don't know if it's going to be worth it to put 3 pickups in this thing and do this. Remember how I was saying that what comes out here is the summation of 3 basically EQ type curves you got the frequency response of this thing, you've got the natural frequency response of the amplifier itself, and then you've got the hopefully transparent frequency or even frequency response of the speaker. So, and our big thing is that the amp's got a lot of mid, naturally. They put in extra circuits to boost the bass and treble on this particular model, but amps are mostly mid by nature. Unless you know, buy a bi-amp kind of a thing, and then it's got one that's designed to be regular and one that's designed to be like bass kind of thing, but or treble and everything else. But anyway, so, and then remember I said that you could do screws in order to try to change this curve a bit, and then you can play around with your tone controls here. And then the other thing you can do is you can insert an EQ pedal into the chain, and yeah, so there's our basic tone, and it's bright, and it's got a good solid bottom because of the screws basically. So now this is why I'm not sure it'd be working. That's with make sure I'm saying the right and doing the right thing here. Okay, yeah, so we've got decent bottom, nice treble. Turn it on. It's going to be basically the same, maybe it's slightly warmer, more going to an amp sound, because this actually has 6 or 7 band, 3, 6, 7 level. So yeah, it's basically, it's got 8 amplifiers in it. They're all set at 0 right now. And as you can see, it doesn't seem to, yeah, these are pretty decent pedals actually for the price. They don't have a whole lot of background noise or anything. They were good enough, cheap enough that I bought like 5 of them for $100 or something back in the day, a couple of years ago. I was thinking of putting a pedal on every guitar build, mount one here kind of a thing, and this would be the output jack for the guitar. I did it on the X1, and I did it on the first version of the X4, and I think there's actually a video of it, and you can see one of these puppies installed on a guitar build. But anyway, yeah, so now it's on, and we were putting in a pickup in order to get more bottom end, which would be, I think this end, no, the other end. It's backwards from a regular EQ. More bottom end. Alright, let's do it this way. This is the way to do an EQ. Well, there's all kinds of ways to do an EQ, but this is the method that I prefer. This is basically what I figured out on my own that seems to work best. You start with the thing all the way down, and notice all of our noise has gone away now. So then, okay, we've got our volumes all the way down. We're going to leave our bass and treble all the way up. Whatever comes out of here, as we start turning up, that's going to be our baseline sound. So let me bring it up to about 2 on both the preamp and amp. And we got almost nothing. You can barely hear like 5 and 6. Let me bring it up to 5. Okay. And you obviously you hear 6. So let me bring it like all the way up. Okay, there it is, but it's not very loud. Now we're going to start turning it up on the EQ side. So basically our amp is cranked, our preamp circuit is cranked, and now our preamp circuit, which has been turned all the way down, doesn't quite kill it, as you see. Now what we want to do is we want to turn it up until whatever's loudest right now coming through is loud enough for our taste. That'll do. Let me turn it down a little bit for the sake of the phone. Alright, then now we want to put some bottom end in. And see, now we've got a lot of bottom end in. And then we wanted to brighten it up. Oops, hold on, I hit the level. Now we'll brighten it up. You'll start hearing the hum again. That's about halfway up. That's about 3/4 of the way out. See, that's getting pretty bright and pretty fairly fat bottom. Alright, so I don't know if that's just line noise or overdrive or what. Yeah, we're just hearing more of the line noise. Starts to get into a bit of overdrive there. I'll turn all that out. So I've got like the level at about 3/4. Take a little off of that treble just to feel that static. Yeah, the treble's up just about all the way. So yeah, you can hear it's got a fair amount of bottom. Fair amount of top. We can put in a little bit warmer bottom and bring the next band up halfway. It's already starting to buzz out. Ground it. There we go. Oh yeah, listen to that. That's a nice fat bass. Just breaking it up to the top. Okay, and can you see the EQ from that? Yeah, you should be able to see the EQ. Basically, the top two, it starts with the top one pegged, and then the second one's almost pegged. The next three are all the way down. Second last one's got, I don't know, maybe it's up, might be up about a quarter, and then the lowest one is pegged all the way up. So that's probably going to be about the best sounding curve that you're going to get out of this. And then so the idea is that you've got a, go back to my little pictures worth 1,000 words thing here. So you got, where are we at here? We got 6 bands. 1, 2, 3. No, how many bands do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 7. 3, 4, 6, 7. 5, 6, 7. Okay, and then we got our screws. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we got our amp. So, yeah, we got, our screws are like, let's come around this side. Our screws are like here, and then if this is line level, then where's the rest of the screws? And the other 4 are down here somewhere. And then our EQ is set. Where's this one go? That's treble and that's bass. So treble is like, did I invert this curve? Treble's almost pegged, but not quite, because it's kind of overdriving a little bit. And then the next one's down a little bit further. And then the next 3 are flat. And then all the way up to this bottom end. And we're about a quarter or a third, and the second from the bottom. So, like, these are our screws, and these are our EQ settings. That's treble, sorry, that's treble, that's bass, that's treble, that's bass, it's identical. And then our amp is going to look like that. Just a bell curve kind of a thing. How peaky and how wide and stuff varies by the amp, but yeah, it's going to be something like that with more mids and less bass and less treble. In the case of this, it's got a bass and a treble, so they're throwing in circuits that'll do something of this nature and add these kind of curves to it, with that being your bass and your treble. So, let me connect the dots. these are basically the three curves that we're going to end up summing up. And yeah, so you can see these two here make up for the lack of stuff here. And these two here make up for the lack of stuff here. If I figure in the bass and treble kicked up, factor in the bass and treble, it's probably going to be something more like this upper line than this lower curve. So yeah, so we're adding a bunch here in order to bring this stuff up, and we're adding a bunch here in order to bring this stuff up. And I mean, that's real easy to do, to go from to let me do it fairly. Alright, so that's that loud. And that too. And you get the basic idea. I mean, once you get the volumes the same, that's way fatter sounding. That might be a little too fat back. Take a little bit out. That's a little cleaner. Yeah, you don't want to muddy it up. It's not a bass after all, so just below overdrive on that band, whatever band you're playing with. That's pretty good. And then if we go back, yeah, so you see the difference it makes. Now granted, you know, you're talking about the amps at like maybe 3 right now versus like 9 now. We're basically the same level of sound, but the tone is like night and day. This is like, you know, you're hearing somebody playing in the bathroom next door. Well, that doesn't mean this isn't an interesting tone. It's like you can do. But, you know, if you go, oops, lost my pickup. Guess that's not gonna work. Okay, but yeah, okay. Enough rambling. So, yeah, one of these kind of defeats the purpose of all the other messing around. The only thing that might be interesting would be the coil split. So maybe all this is going to get is going to be, it's going to get this thing at the bridge with the screws towards the neck so they can be up higher, and then it's going to get a coil split switch and a jack. I suppose I could throw in a volume. Wouldn't hurt. Got plenty of them, I never use them. So maybe I'll do that. And that'll give you, and I have yet to, Something tells me that the generator needs oil. I'll be right back. Okay, power's back on. This thing's, we're at 40 minutes. I'll see everybody in the next video. Everybody have a good one.